Sing. So
the Lord has a sense of humor, doesn't he?
Absolutely. So technical theater production at Ryerson University was going to be the thing, or radio, television, and had to apply for one more university. So Queen's University, nuclear physics.
Wow.
I didn't take math past grade 10 whenever you didn't have to, but I just wanted to see if I could get in, and I think I still have my rejection letter framed to say that my grades weren't good enough, and you had to take math.
Thank goodness, another nuclear
physicist is out of the
that
running.
Been a bad thing. Jonny Sullivan from Joe FM, he does the morning show with Jalen and I. We'll talk about that coming up. And Ed Hervey, I never thought you two would bond on the tuba and the trumpet thing here. This is pretty impressive.
It's always been said, football players and marching bands go really well together because you got to be able to learn how to march, and they're both on the field at the same time.
It works out pretty well. All right, well, that's perfect. Okay, so you get your first radio gig, obviously, at some point.
Yeah, graduated college. I moved to St. Catharines, Ontario from London, Ontario, where I went to school. And I called the program director at this radio station every day for 3 months until he hired me. And my first job was 4 hours a week, and I would fill in for one of the commercial producers making commercials for one of the guys. And then I just hung around that place like a bad smell. And whenever an opportunity came up, I said yes and did that. I started doing mornings right out of basically college because I was operating the show, and nobody really does that. And spent 8 years at the place I thought I was going to spend 6 months. Moved to Ottawa and worked in the music department and on air out there, and then came out here to work at Joe to do mornings.
Well, we're glad to have you. He's a funny guy, eh?
Yeah.
We try.
Now, what about this Howard Stern thing? Since you came to Edmonton, people are saying he's kind of got a Howard Stern sound to him. You can hear it a little bit.
I can. Yeah.
Really? Because I don't know. That is by no means a horrible thing to be said about you in this business. If I could get paid $4 million a year to make an ass out of myself, I would totally do that. Chad, if you're listening,
you get paid a lot less to make an ass of yourself.
Absolutely. I've never been told that before, that I sound like Howard Stern, but I guess it's maybe I have one of those kind of voices. I think it's the nasally thing.
Kind of an Edmonton thing. All right. Well, Ed Hervey from the Eskimos is with us. Ed, we talked about your love of music and stuff like that. Radio as well. Growing up, listening to radio, were you more of a talk radio guy or a sports radio guy or a music or what?
All of it. Like, I would sleep. My mother bought me an AM radio as a child, and remember the one with the antenna and stuff and the dial on it, and if you moved it the wrong way, the station would go. And I'd stick it under the pillow just so I could listen to whatever was on. And you remember Terry Ray used to play with us here. He says, I think you're the last human being that listens to AM radio.
Well, we hope there's a few listening this afternoon, but I know what you're saying. Right?
Yeah, and I had it on all the time, and I would listen to Chet, but in the evening, I guess at around 11 o'clock, it changes to the storytelling.
Oh, right, yeah.
Whatever
the old radio shows.
Yeah, and I was like, what is this?
See, that storytelling stuff would be right up Johnny's alley, because it's kind of like a Broadway play.
Absolutely.
Stories. You'd love that.
One guy, a friend of mine, met with this big guy who came from a football program and was talking about how to be successful in business. And he was talking to young college students and said, at one point in time, you're going to have a conversation with a man who's older than you and knows more and doesn't care about drinking and partying and the music you're listening to, that you have to have something to say and know what's going on in the community around you. Start listening to AM radio, sports talk news radio, because you'll learn something. Just not even really paying attention, you'll learn something. So
just absorb it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when I first came to town, all I did before I started working is I listened to every radio station and every AM radio station, just drove around the city, got lost in the city. When I go running, I listen to AM radio and I run around the city and go get lost, find myself on MapQuest, and then get back. and that's how I learned. So, I don't really know. I've never really lived in a city with a CFL team before, so I didn't really know about the CFL, and I lived around Buffalo, so the Buffalo Bills were my NFL team, so I knew all about it, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to have to learn about the CFL now. And I did that by listening to AM radio and listening to the Eskimo show and going on their website and everything, and having that knowledge about me, because I had no idea there was only 3 downs.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, wait a minute. No wonder Doug Flutie, when he started in the NFL, grounded that first throw, because he could do it in 3.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't need it. You know what? We're going to learn more about the CFL and Ed Hervey, who's with us from the Eskimos, Jonny Sullivan as well. We've got a news update and more with these 2 great guests coming up. Perfect. All right, we're ripping through this to get Ed back to practice here. He's got to tell those boys what the hell's going on.
Absolutely. Are you going to be doing stuff with the 6-man league, the off-season 6-man league thing?
No, I have not been approached on that, but the Eskimos have taken a big step in doing more for grassroots football, and I know that there's a high school here that is trying to decide whether to go from 12-man to 6-man, and we want to talk to them because you don't want to lose your 12-man program.
Absolutely.
If you can avoid it, and there's some funding stuff, so we probably will sit down. I know we're going to sit down and talk with them. I was sitting with Rick Walters for the Huskies, and I think we're going to talk about that when I get back from my scouting trip. We're trying our best to make sure that we don't lose it, because on the one hand you're talking about building the base of football here in Alberta, and on the other hand you got programs that are talking about you have to reduce players and reduce stuff, so it just gotta make sense.
All right, here we go. Welcome back to the Scheetz Show with a couple of great guests. We've got Jonny Sullivan from our sister station 92.5 Joe FM doing the morning show there with Jay Lynn Nye, and Edmonton Eskimo, just a great receiver, and he still works for the team. We'll talk about what he does with the team in moments. It's Ed Hervey. But first, Ed, let's talk about, okay, so your college days end, and it's time for you to grow up and try to make a living at something, right? And you really want it to be football, obviously.
I did, and what was shocking is I didn't have the greatest college career as far as statistics are concerned. I mean, I was more of a blue-collar wide receiver, ran down the field to get the safety out of the way for guys like Keyshawn Johnson and Johnny Morton to have success. But I ran hard, I did that job, and I did it to the best of my ability. Didn't think that I would get drafted. I felt that I was going to get an opportunity to compete and go out there, whether it be the NFL or the CFL, and try. Next thing you know, I get a call on the second day of the draft, and the Cowboys drafted me in the 5th round.
How ironic, though, because, again, if people are just tuning in, the very beginning of this story was you decided you wanted to be a football player because your mom and your family was watching a huge game and the Cowboys won, and your mom was jumping on the sofa, and you said, I want to make my mom jump like that. And so how ironic that it was the Cowboys that made the call.
Yeah, and what's ironic is the night before, because I knew I wasn't going day one, because you had to have 1,000 yards, do all these special things, and I didn't do any of that stuff. And then the night when the draft ended, day one ended, I laid in my room and me and my friends are talking, and I have the Michael Irvin poster up, Troy Aikman poster up, Cowboys and stuff. And I said, guys, there's 2 teams that I'd like to go to if I had to. I said, if I can go to my favorite team, Dallas, that'd be great. I said, if not, I want to go to Oakland and be here in California where my mom and family can see me play. I said, those would be my 2 choices. But when I went to bed, fingers were crossed for the Cowboys. So I wake up that morning, I get calls from several NFL teams asking, was I healthy? Was I okay? Was I still alive? Had I been in jail? All those different things. Yeah, I think I'm alive.
Yeah, answered yes to all of them except the I'm in jail one, right?
Yeah.
I'm healthy, yep, I'm alive, yep, in jail, nope.
No. I'm sitting here in the prison. So the Oakland Raiders call, and they said, if you're available at the point where we draft, we'll take you. I said, okay, great. So I put the phone down. I really wasn't watching the screen, and I wasn't doing the whole big festival like everyone else was doing. Mm-hmm. And then the phone rang 10 minutes later, and it was the Cowboys. And then they told me they were going to draft me. And I kind of, okay, thank you. They said, turn the TV on, turned it on. Watched my name flash across the screen, thanked them, hung up the phone, sat down, and I looked around the room, and my buddies are cheering, and I said, okay, well,
guess I'm moving to Dallas.
I'm going to Dallas. And obviously it was exciting. I called my mom, and she was happy, and my sister, and everyone was thrilled about it. And again, going down there, even the short time that I was there, it was still a great experience to be drafted by them, to go out there and do, and try and give it the best you had.
Sure.
And from there, ended up going to the Raiders the following year. And again there, things will work out, and then before you know it, bang, you get a call from the CFL.
Yeah.
And it was actually Paul Jones, and I was thinking to myself, all right,
the CFL.
Yeah.
Okay, let's give it a try. And what most people don't know, and I don't really talk about it too much, is that the first team I actually went to was Winnipeg. I went to the Blue Bombers, and I was there for exactly 24 hours. I flew, we landed, and I got a bad vibe of the place, and I met the head coach, and I talked with him, and I went and practiced, and I got on the phone with my agent, said, this isn't football. here. I don't know what this is, but this isn't football. It says we need to work something out. And I'm not one to quit, but I just felt like this was not what I signed up for.
Right.
And just the way the people were the way I was treated in those 24 hours, I just felt like, no, I can't. I'm not doing this.
That's not a good sign, because typically there'd be a bit of a honeymoon, honeymoon part of this situation, where when you first come to a team and they're excited you're there and stuff like that. But if you already got bad vibes in the beginning, 6 months from now, it's not going to be good at all.
Exactly. And then I'll give you the one thing that just kind of ended it for me was I went to when the trainer or the equipment guy treats you poorly, that's when you know it's time to go.
Yeah.
And he gave me a pair of soaking wet shoulder pads because their equipment was in the trailers.
Yeah.
And I guess the roof was leaking, and he gave me a pair of soaking wet shoulder pads, and I saw a pair of dry ones. I said, can I get those? He said, no, you get what we give you here. I said, oh, okay, no problem.
Thank you.
So I wrung them out, left them outside for them to dry before practice while meetings were going on. And I didn't even listen to what the coach was saying in the film. My mind was already on what time could I get out of town, and could I get out of town tonight, or would it be tomorrow morning? And obviously it was the next day, and I was out of town. And then a year later, I got a call from Paul Jones again, but this time he happened to be in Edmonton.
Okay, so he was with Winnipeg when the first time you got the call.
Yes.
Got it.
And at that time, I took a little more time to think about it, and asked around, came to Edmonton, and the rest is history.
You're not the only guy that spent less than 24 hours in Edmonton, though.
Or Winnipeg, you mean?
Oh, yeah, in Winnipeg.
Yeah.
People got there in the middle of February and
Yeah.
you know what, I'm just going to take the red eye back home.
It's probably true. So you start your career with the Eskimos. Hugh Campbell was here at the time, right?
Yes, he was.
Yeah. So I mean, again, you saw a completely different approach, and probably the first day, you're like, okay, this is what I wanted when I watched that game when I was 5 years old, right?
Exactly. I mean, you walk in, and again, you compare everything. Right?
Yeah.
So it was how I was treated by the training staff, how I was treated from the time I landed in the vehicle, coming to the facility. Dwayne Mandruziak obviously treated me really well. Didn't know me from Adam, but true professional. And to the training staff, all the way up to meeting Hugh Campbell, everyone made it feel like it was football, where football mattered, football was important. All the other stuff was somewhat irrelevant, and they were happy that you were here, whether you made it or not. Because we knew that some people had to go home, but they made everyone feel like you're part of the Eskimo family, and it's up to you, and what you put into it is how long you'll be here. And that to me was more than anything, and I bought into it and enjoyed it.
Was there a little bit of a learning curve going from playing, U.S. style football to coming up to the Canadian League? Did you run the length of the field and go, wow, it feels like it's about 20, 30 yards longer a little bit here?
Well, it kind of, sort of, you just see the difference, but when you're out there running, you're just running in space. So 30 yards is 30 yards, 40 yards is 40 yards. The only time you really, the rules start to play into effect is when, like, if there's a fumble. In the States, if a ball is fumbled, you jump on it, or whoever recovers it gets it. Whereas up here, if you could tap it out of bounds, last touch, you have the ball.
All right.
For punt returners, we have a fair catch. There's no fair catch in the CFL. It's those little things. You can return field goals, things like that. But other than that, it's football.
One thing I noticed, and I've only been to now 2 CFL games, the Rouge. What the hell is a Rouge? I go, wait a minute. What's that 1 point?
Yeah.
Where did that 1 point come from? Well, that's the Rouge. It goes,
Yeah.
out of the back of the end zone, and they get 1 point. What?
Yeah, absolutely.
Who came up with this?
I don't know. It's long before Ed was involved in the CFL, but boy, it can make the game exciting. I mean, the punting it out. Have you seen that yet?
Yeah.
Have you ever had to punt it out? Were you ever back there involved in something like that, or no?
No, but we've always practiced it.
Yeah.
It's always something you practice just in case.
Yeah.
And again, for the punt out is if a team is kicking a game-winning field goal, or a point, kicking a field goal to tie it, and they're down by 1, let's say, for example. The way to kick the ball out, you can protect the lead. And from what I understand, I think there was a Grey Cup that ended.
Yeah, I think so.
Like that years ago. Obviously, for you historians out there.
Yeah, they'll know. Yeah, people that listen to Chet will know.
But that's one thing that once you see that, it's gonna blow your mind. But we used to have fun with it in practice, and we don't have guys who are that good at kicking on the run.
Yeah.
So usually it looks good in practice, but I would dread to see it happen in the game.
You know what I noticed being down on the field now, and I mean the kicking. I've never seen a receiver kick the ball, but you watch receivers and a bunch of these other guys throw the ball, and quite often, I wonder why receivers aren't used more to throw the ball, because you watch these guys throwing it, and a lot of the receivers can throw the ball like quarterbacks, right? I mean, because you do that from the time you're a little kid and stuff like that, and so I wonder if, but not typically guys are punting the ball, so there's only one or two guys, that's a more specialized thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, for the kick out, you want to get the guy who's the best at it,
Yeah.
but you hope you're not in that position to do that. But in football, coaches will tell you they try to cover every possible scenario that could happen on the field, and you may go your entire career and never have to deal with that. But if you're prepared, the most prepared team is the team that has the best chance at winning, is at least what we believe in football. And as far as receivers throwing the ball, there are a lot of receivers who have played quarterback. I played quarterback in high school as well. But you throw the ball back because as a receiver, you learn how to catch. So when you learn how to catch, you obviously have to learn how to throw, because that's part of the growing as a receiver. You learn to throw to whoever you're throwing to, and they'll be on the move.
Yeah.
So you have to learn to hit them. And there's a pride thing, because a man, at least in football, you're not considered a man, throwing like a man until you can throw a spiral.
Yeah, that's true. I'm still not a man.
You can't throw a spiral
I
yet?
can.
Come on. Don't lie to me, Scheetz. Oh, now you're on the... Oh, of course I'm a man.
They're pretty
now.
wobbly. No, I can't. No, I didn't play tuba, but I can't throw a spiral.
Not
Well,
everybody.
again, that's not an attack on your man. I want to believe that.
Eskimo Ed Hervey's with us, and Jonny Sullivan from Joe FM. You know what? I want to ask you your most memorable catch of all of your catches. I'm just going to tell you really quick. I told my son that I was going to be talking to you yesterday, and he says, I'll never forget the one in the Grey Cup in BC, was it?
Yeah.
You made the one that, he says, that was the one that clinched the game for us, Dad. And I'm sad to say, maybe it's because I was drinking, but I don't recall it as much as him. Is he right on that?
Well, there was a lot more game to go. I think that touchdown broke the ice for us. I mean, it was for our team. It gave us a lead.
Yeah.
And we took momentum into the locker room, but obviously Montreal came out, kind of stormed back, and we went back and forth. That was the overtime.
Incredible game. Yeah.
But as far as confidence is concerned, I mean, there's many catches that I had. I mean, there's two that come to mind. One being the one we were playing Winnipeg here in 2002 in the Western Final, and Ricky threw a pass down the field, and I caught it twice. I had a guy drift over me. I caught it twice, but from there, we exploded offensively. And I always felt when I played that, if me or Tuck caught a big ball, it would ignite the entire team. I mean, it would create energy in the place. And again, there's certain types of catches, but not the 5 and 6 yard catches. And so we're talking, down the field, something that Edmonton fans have grown accustomed to enjoying. And that was the one in the playoff game where I felt like, this is we're going to win this game. There's nothing that's going to stop us. And then as far as my own personal favorite was against Montreal, I think in 2001, where I caught a one-hander. It went 95 yards for a touchdown, and had a guy chasing me, and I was kind of running 3/4 speed because I know he can't get me.
I don't want to make him look too bad.
I run 3/4 speed all the time. It's not nearly as fast as your 3/4 speed. And the great Ed Hervey from the Edmonton Eskimos and Jonny Sullivan. The hour is going by way too fast, and we got one more segment is coming up in moments.